Right, guys. So another reading tip. This one is probably this is the one where I saw all the games. This is my favorite one. I think of like all the reading tips that I've ever written down, got ready to share. This one is probably the one where I saw the most gains. So as you can see from here, they're all grouped up where the larger sections of just reading like long series are. And I've made this graph here to show you a visual representation of Barbarian Quest. So as you can see, overall, the number of these are the number of new words. Overall, over time, the number of new words has gone down. So I'll lay out some pros and some cons of this specific reading tip. So the first one, probably the biggest thing is um, sticking with the same like it doesn't necessarily have to be the same series, but the same author too. So um, as people, we tend to stick to using a set amount of vocab and a set amount of like we have our own way of phrasing things, which is called an idiolect, and then this can obviously transfer to people's writing as well. So when you write, like humans, when we communicate, we all have like a very specific set of grammar that we use and a very specific set of vocabulary that we use, and by narrowing down like the author, which is what when you're reading the same series you tend to stick like it tends to be all written by the same author. um you narrow down the like all the possibilities, like the people only know a certain amount of vocabulary. So if you just stick to the same person, like even if they've written like 50 books and you just stick to them, like a lot of people like to read what's his name, Jordan Peterson or whatever. So even if it's translated stuff, and this is the reason that Harry Potter is so like so popular, is because look how long this is, the entire Harry Potter series, and it has basically almost like Fibengmanta, yeah, which is like the characters. Uh, so that's a lot. That's a lot of content to be reading, written by the same person, who will have the same like similar phrasing for like words, similar descriptions for people, and that. But obviously, people have a large vocabulary, so it's still beneficial. Like unless you're like crazy good and you've been like reading for years and years and years, you're always going to come across new words or like new concepts that you don't know that the author knows. So effectively it's like you're still limited by their level, but it doesn't matter because their level is obviously like way higher than your level, and most authors are like a way higher level than like the average native. So if somebody doesn't read, then even in their own language they will find words in things like Harry Potter. So another thing is that um when you read the same book, all the characters and a lot of things, like say you have muggles in Harry Potter or like wands or just like wizards, which words like that probably might not come up in other things, you like hear them so much that you just get so used to it. Sorry if the mic has gone too loud, it looks like it's fuzzing out. So you get used to the even words that don't exist. So I remember when I read Kir the Dragon, there was a specific word, or like there was a thing called an ARB, but it doesn't matter if it's a real word or not a real word because you see that word continuously. So when it is real words and you see them continuously, that just makes it so much like that. It helps, going to give you more chances to remember the word, and then sometimes you'll see the word, and then you'll see the word again, and you'll see the word again, and then at one point there'll be a time where it just hits, like just connects so well. You understand the whole sentence, and you're like, yeah, I know that word now. And then that comes after the repetition of so many things. And then to add to that, when you're reading a book, say you're reading and it takes you like 100 days or whatever, yeah. So say you're reading a book and you're only going to read a certain amount within that time. So you read, say, like 30 pages a day, and then all the words that come up are then like fresh in your mind from that first one. And then when you see them on the second day, it's like natural SRS, just over and over again, seeing the same words, but you're not seeing, like, if you just read the whole book in one go, it wouldn't be the same as like spaced out. So this is why longer series and longer books are just better in general, because you have more spacing, and continuously used vocabulary in like the same way. I mean, I've switched books and switched authors sometimes, and they use like grammar I've never even seen, and they're just constantly using like the same one over and over again. And then that's how you get the variety as well. Is after you've read so much of like one person's content, you kind of need to switch to another person because you will just be too used to like their phrasing, their grammar, and then you need to get used to like loads of different grammar. And then this is how you tell who a good writer is, because you once you I think it's probably easier in a second language because you can see when someone is using a variety of grammar because you're paying attention to it more than you would your own native language. And then when someone is using a variety of grammar, you would probably consider them a good author. And especially this one I read, they used like a lot of vocab, just like crazy amounts of vocab, and it just felt like it feels like the author knows a lot. So what's this tip here? Oh yeah, okay, so that's a good one. So the last pro that I can think of is if you think about me reading this book here, Dragon Raja, this is taking me for like 3 months to read. Plus there is like Putuoka and then Kurim Jajaguk. So all this is the same series, and overall it's gonna take like literally like 4 or 5 months, maybe about 4 months. So until the end of August. So for this whole time, I don't need to look for a new book. I don't need to look for anything else to read because I already have everything planned for like 2 months. And then here I also have things like set out that I'm gonna read later on. So all this is for 2021. So if this lasts me 2021, I don't need to even spend time looking at other things to read. Although sometimes there's a thrill in just looking at new things to read and just like stacking up things to read. And then sometimes, as long as you are actually putting the work in, like actually reading the stuff that you're stacking, then there's not really any problem in stacking, like looking for new stuff to read. And also sometimes I'll get into the content section, so I'll mention that. So um, yeah, just if you stick with the same content, you don't need to find a new. You don't need to find new books. You don't need to. If you were reading, say, like short books, and every single time you found a short book you would have to look for a new book every single time, or you would have to like stack a bunch of books, and then like it just kind of takes some effort, like unnecessary effort, when you could just be reading one entire series and not have to think, and all you've got to do is enjoy the story and get the words from the book and understand the words, understand the content, and you're good to go. So moving on to the cons. The main con is probably that you will get bored before you finish it. So this is kind of like why you have to choose something that's interesting to you, but also will keep you interested the entire time. Um, it's hard for me to say what is good and what is bad because for me, like once I start something, I feel like I have to finish it. So even if it starts to get bad in the middle or it starts to get bad at the end, I will just finish it just for the sake of finishing it. But that's my personality. My personality is just once I start something, I need to finish it, and I don't really care how long it takes. But I have found when I was watching TV shows and when I've been reading books, if something takes you around, I think around 3 months it was, or like just over 3 months. Like once you hit that mark of watching the same thing for like 3 months, reading the same thing for like 3 months, it can't. That's when it starts getting like you just start getting fatigued. But this could be different for every person. So this is like my level is like once I hit 3 months, I realized when I'm watching a TV show and I hit 3 months, that's when I start getting like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I'm getting bored, but I still just stick with it anyway because that's just the way I am. So another con would be, which I was going to say earlier, is that like sticking with an author who is like not good, or his works are easy, his or her works. So if the author's works are too easy, like so here I read the books for the children, but if I only ever read those, like you can see how it's gone down. It goes down into like the 90s and the 50s and stuff like that. And then like if I just carried on doing that, even if I got down to like 10 words or like one word, it wouldn't like there would still be problems because overall the amount of words is not that much. So you would just like stagnate in your progress, and this is why people who like focus on only outputting or like getting the majority of their input is like from talking with other natives, is because when a native, especially if a native talks to a foreign person, and depending on the topics, they might not choose to use like harder vocab, so you will just be like forever stuck in this like this you'll be stuck on that level of the way that a native wants to talk to a lower level person, maybe like a children's level or something, or depends on how they talk to you. And then you also have like zero variety in like what you're reading. So it is good to stick to the same thing until a certain point. If you ever get to the point where you, even if you just like feel it's too easy, like you've got too easy, and then like whenever you try to look at something else, so if you watch something else or read something else and it just looks way too hard, that's probably a good indicator that you need to like just probably move on to a different series or a different book or a different author and just get some variety. But the thing is, it takes so long to learn like Korean anyway, and probably any language. I'm not 100% sure, but I will tell you when I have learned Italian, I will tell you how it compares um in terms of like the amount of vocabulary you need. Like even when I move to a new book, even though it's all of these are like fantasy genre, but there's still new words constantly, like just constantly new words that come up all the time. And then sometimes they talk about different things like politics and whatever and whatever, and there's always new words coming up every single time. And then there's always words that you still don't know, like you've seen but you don't actually know them. So that still happens like a long time, in like 2, 3, 4 years in probably. I want to know when that's going to stop. So where can you find it's been quite long, sorry for that. But where can you find these like long series, long books and stuff? So the main thing is probably like web novels. So you can read like translated things, something like Game of Thrones, Harry Potter. They're gonna be like, you already know they're long, and you might have even read them in like your native language or English or whatever. So things like this are good. Things that exist in English and have been translated, so you already know what exists for that, like generally. And then you have things like webtoons, like generally the recommended ones. If something's been running for years and years, like Shinetab, this has got like 400 chapters. So um, even though it's a webtoon, it's less dense. Like I was saying in the other tips, it's still something that's quite long. And by the time you get towards the end, you will like 100% remember the main character's name for like years, because you will have seen his name so much. So there's the repetition. And then on Riddy books, there's always, you can literally just search by like ebook or web novel or something like that, and it'll show you like tons, like literally hundreds of thousands of different series. So there's an event on at the moment that has 50% off of like different fantasy series. I'm not sure if the romance ones and all the other ones are like it, but there are so many here, and they're so long, and they are literally quite kind of cheap. Some of them are even like 10,000 won, 20,000 won, and so you can just literally pick anything that looks good. Or personally, I would start with something. Um, First of all, I would get to like a level where you can read slightly comfortably, say something easier, and then like when you feel like you're moving up a bit, that's when you want to move on to something like web novels, because they're quite, the average web novel is kind of easy. So in comparison to maybe some other things, but they're not like, I'm not going to say they're for like kids or anything, you know what I mean? Um, but even you can see here that there are literally like tons of them. Like there's literally tons and tons and tons of them. So you've got that. This one here, Adik Sare, that lots of people recommend this because it is quite easy. But personally, I think a lot of people also, they started it but didn't finish it. So it does depend on like, I think it's kind of like your personality. But personally, I didn't. I think I finished part one here, which is the eighth book, and then I didn't even read the rest because about halfway through around three or four, that's when it starts to get like, see, for me it was boring, but for some reason Koreans like, they've rated this really highly, even like a 4.7 after like almost 3,000 people rating it is like crazy good. So it just depends on the person really. But I got bored of this, but because of my personality, I stuck through it. So this one is relatively easy, and that's all I can really recommend. In terms of like longer books that I know is, but um, you can find them. This Barbarian Quest Day is really good, um, as well. But if you are like a lower level, it might be kind of hard in a lot of places because of some of the topics. And but as I've said, the more you read it, you'll just see the same words repeated and repeated and repeated, and you just look them up, and then eventually there'll be one sentence, and it's just spot on. So yeah, Naver webtoon, Naver web novel, anything like that you can find things on. Yeah, personally, you could just Google like the top ten web novels, top 10 um series or something like that, Korean series. I'm pretty sure you could just do it in English or you could do it in Korean. I'm pretty sure you'll get tons and tons of posts anyway. Or you can just look at the top top webtoons, and generally they're all quite long if it's been going too long anyway. And then you can. It's better to read something that is like generally accepted to be good than to read like the random ones on here, or because they generally are like lower quality, or even just like absolutely like the content is terrible. Not so much the writing, but the like like nothing happens, or usually if it turns into romance they tend to just downvote it. Koreans just like review bomb it like were 0.1 stars, whatever, like it's got romance in it, like get rid of that. So it does depend on what you want to read. So choose something that you want to read, choose something long. That's about it. Sorry for being so long. Please leave a comment, a like, subscribe. Don't really have to do any of those, just saying it.